I had a very strong father. My dad was a very strong person. He believed in a hard day's work. He believed in supporting his family. He believed in helping his men become men and become men the right way. There's responsibility that comes in with being a man. Yeah, he didn't really take care of himself. He smoked. He was overweight. He was a big dude too, and he died early at 68 because of this. And I don't want to see other people go through that. I don't want to see other families go through that. So that's what it's kind of inspires me too. So I'm going to be 60. I'm only 8 years away from what he was when he passed away. Some of the folks just didn't take care of themselves. They just let themselves go, and it was kind of sad what happened to Billy. Wishing that they would have been better. Wishing that they would have gone, taken care of themselves a little bit better.
Do you think resisting the narrative is costing you anything?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Um,
When you reflect back on maybe the earlier years with your kids or before this time where you feel you can be more present, was there moments where you feel like you didn't?
I would say not only the bad times, but the missed opportunities. The missed opportunities, like, oh, if I just done this differently here or that differently over there.
What do you think helped you slow down and be more present? Or how have you learned that as you've got older?
I don't think I've slowed down. I think I've just become more.
A lot of men hit midlife and they start to quietly negotiate with decline. Not out loud, not consciously, just in small ways. They stop training because life gets busy and they start telling themselves that it's normal to feel stiff, normal to feel tired, normal to carry extra weight, and normal to lose their edge. But today's conversation is a reminder that decline is not always inevitable. Sometimes it's a standard you slowly stop defining. My guest today is Michael Guadagnino, and he's approaching 60, but he talks about life like a man who still feels like the best years are yet to come. We talk about the role of strong fathers in shaping standards and how discipline can start young and carry through a lifetime. We talk about the moment that shook him, going back to his high school reunion and seeing people that he once knew, once trained with, and realised how far they'd slipped. We also talk about the deeper emotional drive behind his mission, because his dad didn't take care of himself and he died at 68. Michael is now 60 and he measures time differently because of it. So if you're a man in midlife who feels like your health has been slowly drifting, this episode is a chance to reset your standards before the wake-up call arrives.
Yeah, I have to start with I had a very strong father and actually a strong grandfather. I always talk about the two. I was very fortunate to have these two men in my life. My grandfather never usurped my father's authority. When my grandfather was there, my dad was working. My grandfather was around. My grandfather would take us to the ball field. My grandfather would watch us swim. And growing up, he was always a part of, as we were in high school, my brothers and I in high school, always was a part of, always had that male um, person in my life. My dad, on the other hand, my dad was a very strong person. He old school, where he believed in a hard day's work. He believed in supporting his family. He believed in helping his men become men the right way. There's responsibility that comes in with being a man. There's in teaching a boy this and become a man. There's accountability. And not that that isn't true with a woman, but I'm talking about strictly here on a man's side. When I was younger, he put me in karate when I was 6 years old. I was getting some schoolyard fights, and he didn't like that, but he felt I should be able to defend myself. They put me in karate, and I stayed with it, and I really believe that too helped me develop a sense of confidence. And I became a black belt, and I continued to train all through high school and into college. And I pre-med, a lot of things changed in my life because I just became so busy with college and pre-med. But that was a big part of it. I was really staying with that whole fitness idea that I always exercised. I'm not a particular big person. I'm 5'9" on a good day. And now that I'm pushing 60, I might be a little bit more closer to 5'8". But I think those two men in my life helped guide me in that direction of becoming a confident. I mean, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, as we all have. But just being in that direction to being man, and then I have children. My son is almost 30. He just got married, and I have a daughter who's 25. And it helped me to kind of teach my son how to be a man, and to teach my daughter how to be a woman, how to respect herself. And and growing up, me showing her that she's the most important person in the world, and having her believe that. So I think going back to the beginning, it's the male influences I had, um, the direction they put me on, and when I made mistakes, like everybody does, they help guide me back into the center. And I'm very thankful. I don't have, neither one of them is alive anymore, but I still every day think about that, and I still feel they're watching over me.
I love that, mate. It sounds like, your grandfather and your dad are the ones who sort of set a bit of the standards in your life. And you talk about them helping shape you to become a better man. What do you mean by that? Or can you give an example of maybe something that happened in your younger years that helped to shape you, that your dad or your grandpa, gave you advice on?
Yeah, I can give a really good example. For my 10th birthday, um, my dad took me. Our family went to New York City, and back in the 1970s, New York City was a jungle. I don't know in Australia. I mean, I don't know how well you know what it was like back then in 1970s. New York City. New York City has cleaned up quite a bit, but it was a jungle. And I remember sitting in the car with my mouth open, seeing some of this stuff out in the open, and not understanding like people living like this, you know. And he did a very good job of shaping me to not go in that direction, to not end up that way. Again, when you're a child, you can go in any direction. You need that guidance to be molded. And he molded me. He molded me. He molded me. I think well. So that, and that was, and it's still to this day, 50 years later, I still think back to that one trip to New York City when we drove down what was at the time 42nd Street, which was because we're going to a theater, and at 42nd Street in the 1970s was a real battle zone. I mean, you could imagine if you ever watched the movie Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro. I mean, a lot of that takes place, and that's what it was like. And a 10-year-old with his mouth open, and so that moment, I still remember that, and realizing not the time, but now thinking back, the direction some people can go in to the extremes or go into another direction. So again, I don't ever say I'm perfect, and I never claim to be, but yeah, you just keep battling every day.
Mm. Sounds like they helped you make maybe smarter choices in some in some context there, mate, to guide you on that journey as good role models as fathers and grandfathers should do. I'm curious, like, what did they model around health, energy, and responsibility?
Um, well, they try to find where our talents were, where our talents lie, and direct us in that way. Um, it didn't matter if it was arts, if it was music, if it was sports, and to encourage it, encourage what you were, and to foster that, and to continue to look. I was an average athlete. I tried hard. Again, I said I was 5'9", so in high school I was a lot smaller, but I was pretty good at music. So he was 100% on board for this. My brother on the other side was really an athlete. He's a big guy, and he was just an athlete. He directed him in that way. Never compared the two of us. Never had us, be in any kind of competition. Wherever our talents lied, that's the way he directed us. And I just think that was just being that supportive to what it was, and guiding us, and leading us in that direction, not putting us, not trying to fit square pegs into round holes and vice versa. And it really was that's important. That's important. And I try to do the same too as I was, with my kids. And I hope one day they'll do the same with theirs.
Exactly that. You talk about making mistakes, and we all do as kids. What was the feedback when you did make mistakes from your dad?
Yeah, he wasn't happy, depending on what it was. He was strict. He was disciplinarian, but he was fair. And thinking back to it at the time, you didn't think he was fair, but It was fair. You realize you're growing up in somebody who's just working hard to, middle class family, just trying to make ends meet and give your children what they don't have. You give your children what you don't have, what they didn't have growing up. And it was very fair. But he wasn't happy with, but he kind of directed me. There were times when, even though we had just signed sit downs, and it was, my dad was a big guy and could be intimidating, but he would just tell you he loved you and let you understand that this is why we can't be doing this. You can't be doing this because of X, Y, Z. You know, and it always ended with, You're so smart, you're so bright, you're so talented. Why would you want to do that?" And to leave you thinking. The aspects of a great speech are to make people laugh, make them cry, and make them think. And a lot of times that's what went on in these. Maybe laughing not as much, but but you always love thinking. You always love thinking like, "You're right. I don't want to disappoint him. I don't want to disappoint myself."
Mm. So there was a real sense of responsibility to uphold there with your relationship with the dad. And it sounds like he dealt with that in such a great way to be able to sit you down and talk to you about those things and about who you want to become, and who you are becoming. How has that shaped how you dealt, I suppose, with your kids as they were growing up?
Oh, completely is the same way. I mean, I just basically to even I coached their teams and stuff. I just always was never yelling at them. You may yell to them, move to your left, move to your right, but it was always tell them what they could be. I mean, when you think about it now, when we are our age, in middle age, you think about it with a kid, the whole world's in front of them. Why would you ever want someone to put a ceiling on what they think they can be, what they can become? Of course, again, that as the adult, you see the talents lie, you try to steer them and direct them a certain way. But no matter what it is they want to be, I mean, let's come on, let's be the best at it. You can be. You've got the whole world. You have your whole life in front of you.
Mm. Such a powerful message, mate. Especially, I think, for a lot of men these days. You're talking about your dad being middle class and working hard and trying to take care of the family and all that sort of stuff. Like a lot of times we're pulled away from our family and the time we do have with them, we could be drained, we could be tired, we could be low on energy, but we've still got to show up, as that dad, as that role and to be a guide and to support them. Do you feel your dad made mistakes along the way when you reflect back on the relationship that you had with your dad?
But yes, I mean, everybody does. No, but it not perfect, but it wasn't mistakes were not made out of um, intentional. I hate to be judgmental, but looking back at things like, I wouldn't handle that something a certain way, because everybody's brought up a different way. I was fortunate to be brought up in that house. He came from a more difficult situation, and my kids are now were brought up in it. In you want each generation to be better in so many ways than the previous, and mistakes a lot of times happen because of things that you know may have happened in your past. And like my dad grew up. His father died when he was 10. His mom when he was 15. He was passed around from family member to brothers to brothers to. So you see the world differently that way. So that's where mistakes can come from.
Yeah, I agree. You talk about him, supporting you in the direction and the path that you wanted to take. So can you talk to us a little bit about the path you did take?
The path I took was I wanted to be some sort of a doctor. I always wanted to be some doctor. I love science. I love biology. Even in high school, I wanted to be. I saw my mom went to it, could not get. She had back problems. She couldn't get any. The only person that helped her was a chiropractor. It was like a last resort to a chiropractor. And I went with her a couple of times. I saw it. I was like, holy cow. I got interested in it. I got more and more interested in it. I found out what you need to become one, what kind of degrees you need, what kind of undergraduate degrees you need. So I applied and got accepted to a pre-med program out here in New York Institute of Technology. It's a small science and technology school, which was good. And even though I was in pre-med, I kept going back. Should I become an MD? Should I become a DC? And then I came at the end. I actually I had choice. Could have went into medical school, and I chose not to. Chose to continue the chiropractic route because I like things handled in a more natural way, less medicine, more health, fitness wise, and letting your body kind of treat itself as best it could. There's always a time for medicine. There's always a time for surgery, but if we can do everything prior to that, So that's what led me to becoming a chiropractor. With that, I continued the path that I was always been in, which was fitness and health, and again, natural health. And I worked my way, I've been practicing now for 33 years. And within the past year, I wrote a book, Fitness Over 50, 60, 70, and Beyond. And what precipitated that was the pandemic. And during the pandemic, we found that people over 50 had much better results if they were in better shape, if they were healthy, didn't have high blood pressure, were not overweight, were not on a lot of medications. And I just kept hearing it. I kept reading the stats and hearing the stats and reading it. And one day it came to me and said, what could I do to make a difference? I said, you know what, let's put it all down in a book. Now, the book is really, it's not for advanced exercise physiologists. It's really a book to get people who haven't been working out their whole lives or have never worked out, get them to start doing some type of exercise, some sort of eating properly. And so that kind of, so it's kind of a crossing paths of my whole health and fitness, natural health type of doctor into this book. And it's really taken off. It's done really, really well. I'm really happy. And I'm hoping it's making a difference.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I think, we definitely need more of that sort of stuff out there, don't we? And especially, I think as we age, there's a lot of misconceptions around, I suppose our health and fitness. And I think there's still a lot to learn. Our hormones change, everything shifts. If we haven't been training, the stress, so many different factors to look at.
For
You
sure.
know,
100%. Mhm.
when I read your bio and I read the information that you sent me before the podcast, I can see the thread of health being important to you. And you've obviously gone into the health field. Along the way, has your health ever suffered or has your health ever slipped? And then you've just gone, hang on a minute, I need to focus again on this.
I'm pretty fortunate. I have not had many major health issues. I did have my appendix out about in 1998, and I couldn't work out for 6 weeks. I went nuts.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, because after surgery, I had to wait. I had that well, way back when I was in pre-med, when you have, or even when I was in chiropractic school, when you have your finals, you got to walk away from it for a little bit. But other than that, I'm very fortunate. There are times when you're more into it than others. You're really working hard, and then but I've never had that type of stop. I know a lot of people do, and that's fine. One thing about my book and what I do in my practice too is it's non-judgmental. It's no one's going to mock you. I see a lot of people, a lot of these influencers online, and they try to harass people and mock them and tell them they're lazy. If you don't know what goes on in people's homes, you know what goes on in people's lives. Maybe someone's just having a bad month or that's something with work or something. Non-judgmental. Let's get back on it. Let's start again. Come on, you can do this. And so my book is non-judgmental and it's very conversational. It's more I try to it's not a biology book. There are 200 scientific citations in there. Everything I say I back with data. But it's just really kind of get people going again. Here's some nutritional advice. Here's some exercise advice. Positive state of mind. Here's some supplement advice. That's really, and if someone's gotten off that wagon, it's okay. We can pick back up again. There's nothing wrong. I even talk too about when people they're at a holiday and they might go off and eat or drink and okay, it's okay. That's life. I give some ideas on how we can fast and things we could do to help get back on it afterwards. I try to handle it that way and again use that word again non-judgmental way of helping people.
Hmm. I can relate to that as you say it. And I think I see it in seasons. There's different seasons of our life. And, I've grown up in sort of health and fitness since 2010 and always played sports before that, but owned gyms and been a personal trainer and, been pretty consistent with my training. But then you have a kid and all of a sudden, things get turned upside down. And that season of your life where, they're young and they're just growing up and maybe you're not getting as much sleep and, there's other things going on in your life, you have to take pressure off somewhere. And sometimes, training has slipped.
Yeah,
And then in other seasons where life's been a bit smoother, training, nutrition, sleep, routine, everything's back in check. So I think it's a roller coaster, isn't it? We go through it, the ups and downs, the peaks. And I see it with my clients as well. So many of my clients that I train, there's stressful times of the year. There's times where they're on holidays. There's times when they're sick. And, you can't put that pressure on and say, well, everyone should be doing X. And if you're not, you're lazy. Or, like you say, it's the circumstances of life, isn't it? So do
What
what
I
you
used to
can when you
do,
can.
yeah, what I do, I actually have a home gym. I have a very large home gym, which I'm comfortable with. So when my kids were little, when they were babies, I used to set up an area with where they could kind of just play and work out. But I realized too, because they're both athletes and exercise enthusiasts themselves, I wonder if that was just they learned that's what we're supposed to do. It became
Yeah.
part of their DNA now. But I can still picture areas, either toys. I'd do a couple sets, play, talk, whatever, go back, do a couple of sets, and have Mr. Rogers on the TV or whatever. It just, I incorporated him into it.
I think that's a big thing, isn't it? It's like the role model you are as a dad. And it's not necessarily sitting there and telling people what to do, but it's lead by example, show,
Hmm.
don't tell. This is important to me. This is why it's important to me. And this is the routine and the habits that I stick to. And hopefully, the younger generation, like you say, us trying to make the next generation better than the last one, they see those positive traits and those things that, we're investing in. So then when they don't fall into the trap of letting it slip until, they get stuck in, I suppose, an uncomfortable place where I think a lot of people these days are heading. They wait until the heart attack. They wait until diabetes. They wait until X chronic disease before they go, holy shit, I probably should start taking care of my health and making that change. But I think sometimes the hardest thing is that first step, isn't it?
It
Um,
is it is the hardest thing. And I tell people, if you when you get when you get that idea, when you get that motivation, write it down and just keep reading it. Or get yourself some sort of a diary or a notebook and put those ideas and thoughts down, and then build from that. And today I'm just gonna do a little walking. And next week I'll do a little walking around the block, and then I'll do a walk, and then I'll start jogging. I'll start lifting, and you just build, just step by step, climb that ladder, just one at a time. Don't become Another thing I used to tell my kids growing up: don't become overwhelmed. As an example, you walk into a room full of people. You don't have to take on the whole room. Just find someone you know, work your way that way. It's the same thing too with when you're exercising. You want to start. Just Just start. Just breathe. Get outside and do a little bit of walking, and just start from there. And then next thing you know, it's 5 years down the line, and you're so much better shape than you were prior. On such a different trajectory too.
yeah, and it's like that taking that self responsibility too, isn't it? It's like no one's going to help you with your health. At the end of the day, the responsibility is down to you, and you're the one that has to, take that action. You spoke about attending a high school reunion and being confronted with, what time had done to some of your peers. Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I know that's not judgmental, but I went. I was my class president, so I organized my 10-year reunion and my 20-year reunion. And after that, I was like, I'm done. But it was, you don't use, these are the people of your youth. These are the people you remember because you remember them as kids. And back, I graduated high school in '84. No Facebook, no social media. '94 was a reunion. No Facebook, no social media. 2004, maybe it was starting. So you didn't really see anybody for 10 years and then 20 years. And some of the folks just didn't take care of themselves. They just let themselves go. And I hope they're happy. I hope I hope they're healthy. But it was kind of sad. It was to see, that someone your youth who was maybe you looked up to, maybe you admired, maybe you just were really good friends with the person, and then they just let themselves go. And it's but yeah, you don't know what's been going on in their life, but I'm hoping that my book changes that and get someone back in gear. But it's tough. Yeah.
What was going on internally for you in that circumstance when, you haven't seen these people for a long time? And like you say, maybe some of them were good mates or maybe some of them were people you looked up to in your younger years. But then you're coming to this reunion and you're like, well, geez, these people have let their health slide or, they're not in as good a shape as I thought they would be or X, Y, and Z.
I wouldn't say depression, but I'd say it was like, oh, go home and think about it. Oh, what happened to Billy? What happened? But because these are people I was in the weight room with, we're pushing each other, and then it's like, so it was tough. It was head scratching, and I don't, yeah, it was, it was wishing that they would have been better. Wishing that they wouldn't. would have gone taken care of themselves a little bit better after that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough message, isn't it? It's like things can just slide. We get stuck in all of the different responsibilities and things that take up our life. You know, you mentioned before, we never know what's going on in someone's life and all the things they've got on their plate and how they can shift and prioritize, you know, their health and stay on top of that before it becomes too late. And I think obviously I think it gets harder as we get older. If we're not taking care of our health through those years of 30 and 40 and 50, then what sort of shape are we going to be in? And when we hit 60, and it's going to be so much harder when we're older to get started. So the sooner we start, probably the better we're going to be. What's your advice to someone that comes to you or talks to you about, you know, starting a workout program or starting to focus in on their health in midlife, and maybe if they haven't paid so much attention to it early on?
Well, you want to find out what the goals are. What are you looking to achieve from this? Why do you want to get better? What do you want to do? And then reverse engineering that. You know, I want to lose weight. So we reverse engineer how you lose weight. I want to get stronger. I want to have broader shoulders, which you still can when you're 50 years old. But so you want then just basically step back. Okay, you want to get that there. So what's the what do you need to do to get there? What are these steps? And you start from the very basic, very bottom line of what it is. Okay, you're going to cut sugars out of your diet. You know, and if someone's a really sugaraholic, you can't. It's hard to do it right away. We're going to cut it down to 5 donuts or a week or whatever that is. So we kind of and just work backwards and work from there. But the key thing is knowing what your goals are. And again, writing them down, seeing them, and figuring out the pathway.
If I was to ask you what your goal is right now, Michael, what would you say?
My goal right now? Oh, that's a good one. Well, my goal is always just to continue to grow. Continue to be present for my family, to continue to be present for my patients, continue to expand my practice. I'm very fortunate. I've been practicing for 33 years. You have that to continue to you know, I'm thinking about writing a second book. Uh, so there's just I still have being 60 years old doesn't mean things are stopping. I still see myself. That's why I look in the mirror. I still see myself in my head as that 25-year-old who had the whole world in front of him. I've not stopped that. I look in the mirror sometimes. I say, where does gray hair come from? Who's this guy? But yeah, no, there's been no stop. And when my wife talks about sometimes about retiring, I'm like, what are we talking about? There's no retiring. I got so much I still have to do. So I still have goals.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Like say we reflect back on that younger man that we were and that period of our life where there was probably a lot of big goals to chase in terms of career, maybe relationships, maybe our health and fitness, maybe financial, all those different things. What have you learned to probably let go of the most, do you feel?
I you know Worrying. Worrying is one of the worst things you could do. What happens if when we're in the middle of winter here. I think you're summer down where you are, but we're it's like 17 degrees out right now, and there's a big storm supposedly going to be hitting on Monday and Tuesday or Sunday and Monday. 30 years ago, it'd been, oh my God, my practice, oh my, what am I gonna do? But I realize now it's not personal. Everybody around here is gonna be stuck inside with the snow. So and it'll work out because it always has worked out. Realize that not to worry. And another thing I learned too, to stop and smell the roses, appreciate and gratitude of what you have, and really just appreciate things. That I realized as my kids have gotten older. Like I said, one's going to be 30, the other one's 25, she'll be 26 soon. And all these years passed. I mean, did I really smell the roses? I really appreciate and enjoy, because you're in the fight. You're always kind of in the fight of life. And just really just appreciating them. Not to worry. I will always worry about my kids in some way, but not worrying about the sweating the small stuff and just enjoying and appreciating what we have and taking that time.
Presence, isn't it? It's hard to sometimes slow down and just like say, smell the roses or be present in that moment where we're chasing so many things. The mind's running at 100 miles an hour, whether it's, you know, the job, relationships, whatever's going on in our life, go, 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 go. What do you think helped you slow down and be more present? Or how have you learned that as you've got older?
I don't think I've slowed down. I think I've just become more time compartmentalizing my time, but just really being present. Like I'm sitting in the room with my kids, with the rover. My son's home. I'm not playing on the computer. I'm not playing on the phone. I'm there with them. And one thing my son and I do a lot of times too is he lives a bit distance from me now. We'll watch the ball game together. He'll FaceTime me and we'll sit there as if we're in the same room together and just be present that way. And things like that. Just being there for them. My daughter coaches. I'll go to her games, be supportive for that. She's not playing anymore, but she's coaching them. So I go there to support. I don't know who these players are, who these kids are that she's coaching, but I'm just there and cheering them on and being part of it, and just being there, and just appreciating that and gratitude that I've made it to 60, and I have this family, I have this, and other people may have other things they could appreciate, but it's just gratitude's a big thing.
Mm. When you reflect back on maybe the earlier years with your kids or before this time where you feel you can be more present, was there moments where you feel like you didn't?
Yeah, I always feel it. They probably, I hate to say this, they probably would think not. They think I was present, but you seem to always remember more of the, I would say, not, I wouldn't say the bad times, but the missed opportunities as opposed to the opportunities. The opportunities have come, gone, you appreciate them. The missed opportunities, like, oh, if I just done this differently here or that differently over there. But actually, in the big picture of it, if I was there 90% of the time, 95% of the time, that's a win. And they probably don't remember the 5% or 10%. But you just remember those things. So yeah, again, no one's perfect. We're all human, and as long as we continue to work and strive and learn from what we think was our mistake and go from there.
Mm. Do you journal, Michael, and do you think about gratification, like what you're grateful for, or what sort of tools have you implemented to help you maybe reflect on these moments and to grow and learn from them?
I do journal, but I write down things that are important, things I want to do, goals. I do have in there the things, pages of gratitude, things I'm grateful for, and things I would like to see, and like such as goals, things I want to see. And what I enjoy doing is crossing them off, which I wish to have, and gratitude that they happen. Just the manifestation does happen in some way, whether it be spiritual or just because you're working towards it, whatever it is, but it does happen. And so many times you cross it off, you put it on the gratitude side. I love doing that. It's a feeling of accomplishment.
Creates clarity, I think, too. And you talked about not slowing down before, but better time blocking. And I suppose if you've got this journal where you're writing, the things you're visioning, what I want to achieve, where I want to go, it helps you sort of stay focused and
Hmm.
push away the noise of everything else that's going on around you and continue to strive and work for the things that matter most in your
Yeah,
life.
I completely agree with that. I mean, that's when you learn to compartmentalize. And when you write things down, you can see them and you can not obsess over them, and you can kind of guide them to where you want or what you wish to achieve. And when you cut out time for it, we're doing this. It's 10 o'clock right here, p.m. I spent the whole evening with my wife and my daughter, and just ate dinner and watched TV and talk, and that was important. This is important too. We're doing right now, but that was important to spend that time there. Yeah.
Have you always been big on self reflection, or is that something that's sort of come with age as well? When you've sat down and really thought about these things, like what's important, what are your values, what are you working towards, and put pen to paper?
Yeah, that comes with age. When you're younger, you're just going through life. You
That's
know,
wisdom, do you think?
yeah, yeah, that's you're just going through it. You just it's but you think back and you realize you probably were appreciating things at some level, just not as cognitive as we are now. But yeah, I was always grateful. Like we talked earlier about my father, both my family in general. I was always appreciative of it, but never really thought about how appreciative I was of it. So, but now I can kind of really just self-reflect on. I think that comes with age. I think that comes with as we get a little gray.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Like, before I said to you, have you slowed down and have you learned to be present? You're like, hang on, I haven't slowed down. You're still going. Obviously, you still want to grow, and that's a big goal of yours that you have. But in a way, you've created space to slow down and to organize your values and to organize your purpose, your vision, all the things you want to work on, writing the book, spending time with your kids. So in a way, I think you've taken your foot off the accelerator to smell the roses and be there. Would you agree?
But yeah, it is. I mean, before I even had kids, my wife and I first got married, I mean, I was working like 6 days a week, like like a dog. There's no way I'm doing that now. It's just, ah. But yeah, you're right. You do it. Yeah, and that was going, and that was really going.
Mm, mm. I think there's a strong sort of cultural message these days that like decline is inevitable. I think we just sort of accept that. We accept that as we age, we're going to be capable of less, that, we've just got to get comfortable, that our health is going to suffer. All these things that I think our society is starting to accept today. It sounds like you're resisting that narrative. You're pushing back against it. I'm not ready to slow down. I want to keep going. I'm still growing. There's a lot to learn. What do you reckon is there a flip side to that? Do you think resisting the narrative is costing you anything?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Um, yeah, that's a different way. I've never really been asked in that way. Um, do I think there's any negative to it? No. See, we have to constantly be that salmon swimming upstream. It's
Mm,
just never giving up, just constantly just not giving into the inevitable that I'm going to be old and frail. There's just no way. Do you remember who Jack LaLanne is? Do you know who Jack LaLanne is or was? Jack LaLanne, he was a fitness guru here in the States, and he lived till he was the age of 98. And he didn't get sick until his last year of life. I'm sorry, his last week of life. The week before he got sick and he died at 98. So it can be done. And in my book, I talk about a lot of different people. Chuck Norris. There's another person, the lady in the name of Joan. She's still alive, named Joan Campbell. She didn't start exercising until she was 59 years old, and she began swimming. And she began doing swimming competitions in her 60s and 70s. And at 91 years old, she swam a 1,500-meter race in like under an hour. So it can be done. If you want really to make the attempt and the dedication to taking care of your health, no matter how old you are.
mm. It's interesting, isn't it? Like there are some great mentors, or I suppose there are some great role models out there that we see who are aging well and still pretty switched on upstairs, still doing pretty well in terms of their physical appearance and everything as well. So can definitely use them as I suppose as role models to look up to in that sense. But also, I think when we look at our general population, like the rate of chronic disease and the position that our society is in today and the decline, we walk around thinking that maybe we're immune to that, and it's not going to happen to us. But the statistics are really against us, aren't they? With those declining health numbers, and what you're talking about there is the health span. Like, how long are we actually healthy and being able to do the things we want to do, or as we age, are we just relying on the drugs and the medication and stuff to keep us alive, but we're really not enjoying those later years.
But I see that. I see that as the ordinary person, and the ordinary person is not exercising the way we do, is not eating the way we do, is not taking supplements, is not trying to keep that positive attitude. It's If you're extraordinary, you have a good chance of beating those things. If you take antioxidants, if you they'll fight getting cancers. There's no guarantees, but if your genetics will allow for a longer, do everything you can to maximize that. Now, you asked me before about any downside. I'd say no, they're just all positive. They're trying to get ourselves in that extraordinary bracket as opposed to just the medications, the arthritis, and the frailty.
Mm, mm. I've heard this thing about like uncertainty. So like human psychology around uncertainty. And it's like making change, what's on the other side of making change is uncertain to us. So we prefer to stay in certain misery,
Mm.
like where we are right now, even though things aren't not going great, we know what they are, than to step into uncertainty, and start to make that change. And there's that quote of like, change doesn't happen until the pain of making the change becomes less than the pain of being the same. So it's all
Sure.
about like finding that motivation or finding that why. And I like how you said that before, the goal, like, well, why is the goal important to you? And looking at that and maybe starting to bring those pieces together. What we've sort of touched on a little bit now, I think, is the beliefs around, our health as we age. So I'm curious, like, is there any beliefs that you had to unlearn when you got to midlife around health, energy?
Um, to unlearn. Well, some of the dietary facts have changed, have flipped from yeah. We, we were talking, everything was low fats, 10, 15 years ago, and now we realize that led to Alzheimer's and dementia. The brain needs fats. Um, Things along those lines. We learned how bad sugar is for us, not fruits and vegetable sugar, but so those things about health have changed. Um, Other than that, I mean, it's just, science in general is always evolving. And like the two things I mentioned, we're now thinking in the other direction. So it's just always staying current with what's new and scientifically tested in science and physiology. And so things do change. And when I was, I mean, I tried eating a real hardcore vegetarian diet 30 years ago, and now until I realized I was not getting enough protein. I know you can do it, but there's no way I was gonna eat those beans. And then this was just so it's so yeah. So that's part of the ups and downs in life, and what you learn and not learn. And if you ask me this question 20 years from now, when I'm still going at it at 80, I'm sure I'll have some other answers.
Yeah. It's such a tricky thing to navigate. Like, even as someone that works in health and fitness and has been doing it for many years, there are so many different voices out there trying to tell us what we should and shouldn't eat, how we should and shouldn't train. How have you found, or how have you managed to navigate that environment?
Just trial and error. I'd mentioned I was trying to eat a hardcore vegetarian diet. Was not happy the way I looked. Lost way too much weight. Didn't think I was getting enough protein. Working out hard. Just felt I was not being able to build mass. And slowly kind of changed. And I tried even thinking about doing a keto diet. See, in my book, I talk about all these different diets: the Mediterranean diet, the keto diet, the vegetarian, all different types of diets. Because there isn't one cookie cutter. And you had mentioned everybody has to kind of navigate for themselves. I had to navigate what was best for me. Everybody's blood type is different. Everybody's metabolism is different, and finding out what works for you. I don't think there's any one cookie cutter. So I went through life, beginning trying different things, different types of diets and all. And so I'm pretty much I'm sort of a mix right now. I eat quite a bit of meat, I eat a lot of vegetables, and stay away from the junk.
Mm, mm. I found that too. Like, I've experimented a lot through my time with different things like keto diet, getting the blood meter and checking my ketones and being in a state of ketosis, fasting and intermittent fasting, all those sort of things, and mixed results, especially if I was trying to maintain high levels of training, strength training, and doing a lot of work in the gym and long hours. I found that, some of these hardcore diets weren't actually beneficial for me. I felt a lot worse off them, a lot less focused, a lot less energy, and noticed in the gym my results not going the way I wanted them to go. Um, and then I experimented too with like going full carnivore and just doing that, and felt great on that for a while. But then again, energy levels just weren't the same and sleep wasn't the same after a long period of time, and just like trying to navigate that. But it probably wasn't until I started doing more blood work, working with a functional medicine practitioner and diving into my blood work to understand, MTHFR genes, high histamine levels, and not being able to manage histamine, and having to, modify my diet and modify my routine to support, individually who I am. And like right now, I'm pretty much sort of like animal based diet, which is, real whole foods, not a heap of vegetables, but a lot of fruit, And I feel great on it, and it works for me. But I don't push it on other people and say just because it makes me feel great, this should make you feel great. It's like, well, actually, you've got to navigate this, and you've got to try and find out what works for you. So I like your
Exactly.
message there. Mm.
Yeah, exactly. I like what your message too. You're trying to find out what it is that works for you and putting it towards you, not cookie cutting. And there's so much stuff out there that's cookie cutter right now that's will take people and that's why you get these rebound diets. You get people you can't lose weight ever, and it's just no, it's cookie cutter doesn't work. And you explained it well just there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you've been clear about like the idea about quick fixes. Like you're not in this for the shortcut. You're not here just for instant gratification. This is big picture. This is vision. This is what you're working towards. What principles do you feel have replaced, the idea of quick fixes and being able to have that focus around long-term health? Have you implemented all?
Yeah, what that comes with age when you realize yeah, there's no quick fix in life in anything really. I mean, quick fixes are short lived. And and what I do with my profession, and as you do with yours, it's health, and we're looking for the long term base. We're looking to, you know, what do you want to be in your 40s? What do you want to be in your 50s, 60s, 70s, and working your way towards that. There's nothing wrong with want to be healthy today, this week. That's great, but it's also striving for to stay and consistency and coming up with a routine and putting um, exercise and nutrition and all that as part of your lifestyle, not just look good for the summer. It's not that doesn't that's not the deal.
I suppose people would see that as discipline. You're a very disciplined man, or you're very good at sticking to that. Has there been anything that you think has helped you with that discipline?
I go back to that 6-year-old kid started karate and became a black belt. You set goals, and I think at that age, as a young kid, we're still forming or we're still molding. We're still creating that our patterns, and that's where my patterns. I really put a lot into that karate, going 3 times a week, 4 times a week, expecting to go, having to have your stuff cleaned, having to go, your karate gi cleaned, and there are certain routines and a discipline that takes place in those classes. I think that made a big difference on me and my discipline and your goals. And when you start achieving goals, you begin to develop more self worth and you in confidence. And no matter what it is, I use karate as an example, but no matter what it is that you do, that you create these goals, you set them, you reach them. Um, and even if it's a small goals, appreciating the small goals on the way, you develop that really that confidence in yourself and that I can do this. No one can really put that in your head. You need to experience it. And I was fortunate again as a young person to have that. But even someone who's older, like that, I had mentioned that woman, Joan Campbell, who didn't start exercising until she was 59. I'm sure as she began to realize, oh, I can swim. I can swim across a regular swimming pool. And you just in appreciating those small steps, it, now I could do 2 laps. I could do 10 laps. I could do 1,500 meters. So it, that's where that's where I think a lot of this comes from is just appreciating and celebrating your small achievements.
How have the goalposts shifted for you, do you think, in the last maybe 10 years? Because I think, we have these goals in our 30s and 40s that we're chasing, and, we might get them, we might not. But as we age, I think the goalposts move. Certain things take less priority, other things take more priority. So I'm just curious, like where you are right now, or maybe in the last decade, what big things have shifted for you, do you feel?
Yeah, well, you first, like as myself, I want to start a practice, want to have a practice, want to have a successful practice, want to have patients who enjoy coming, and you start knocking those things off, and then how can I do on a bigger scale? And then when social media came out, I was like, oh, I can reach more people and be a positive influencer. I'm not a crazy influencer, but just a positive people who follow me and teach them about health and wellness. And then the next step was come up with the book and reach a broader base, and then do some podcasts. Like I talked to folks in Australia. So it's just taking that, mushrooming out. What's your next goal? What's your next goal? And so my goals now, going back to, is just get this book more people into more people's hands so they can appreciate it and make the changes, especially again, I'm talking to people who are not fitness gurus, who people who may have never exercised before, and just making that difference. Just you know, when you leave this earth, you want to have made a difference in people's lives, and that's always the goal. I guess maybe at mid age you start thinking more of that. Like, am I doing that? Am I on that trajectory? And that's what we're looking at now.
When you say that, the word that pops into my mind is legacy. It's like right now, it sounds like you're trying to build a bit of a legacy.
Yeah, legacy, a humble legacy. Just
Yeah.
I don't who gets the credit as long as it happens. If I can keep a couple grandfathers around longer, a couple grandmothers, I can save people from surgery and medicines, and then yeah, that's a cool legacy.
Mm. What's the biggest takeaway you want people to get from this first book that you've written?
That they can become healthy, that they can avoid the outcomes that so many people experienced during COVID. Now, hopefully, we never have a pandemic again like that in our lifetimes. But whatever it is, if we can save people from heart disease, from certain cancers, from just to be healthy, not to be sick all the time, not to have flus, and to be present and be there. That's what I like to take from it. That I can do this, I can be healthy, and here's a little bit of a roadmap. And I explain to people how they can take this roadmap and put it into their roadmap and go further.
Michael, how do you feel now on a day-to-day basis? Like when you wake up in the morning and you start your day, what's going on for you? How do you feel?
Oh, I love it. Every time I wake up in the morning, I say to myself, excuse the phrase, by saying to myself, how am I going to kick ass today? And that's, I say it to myself, say to myself, I get in there, take a shower, come back, and I start, getting ready to things I need to do today. This, I need to do this, I need to do that. Just and come up with with a source of things I need to do. Usually I mapped out the day before, but I'm just kind of going through it again in my head. And love going to my office, love my patients. I love coming home again at night and coming back to my family. So it's just, yeah, I just trying to enjoy life. So it's did I think my life would be like this 50 years ago? Probably not. I probably thought it was something different, but I'm getting fortunate gratitude for what I have, and that I am happy, healthy, and the same with my family.
You're waking up and you're kicking ass, mate. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. What does leadership mean to you now, especially around, I suppose, like physical, emotional, relational?
Yeah, leadership in general is not looking to be liked. Sometimes the leader isn't going to be the most popular person in the room, but if you're able to lead men, lead people, lead family, take them from point A to point B all the way to point Z, that's what leadership is to me. And I say some things in here. I talk in the book too. I go through one chapter. I talk about the negative effects of alcohol. I mean, you may not want to hear it, but you should know it. And if you choose to drink alcohol, that's your choice. It's free will. But I explain the negative effects of it, and that's am I looking to be popular with those couple pages? No, I'm not. But it's the truth. That to me, that's leadership.
Yeah. Do you think that starts with leading oneself?
Oh, for sure. You have to set the example. I mean, if I walked into my office not in shape, I'd be a fraud.
And yet so many doctors do.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
My dad, we talked about. I remember he had to have heart surgery way back when, and then it was a 5 hour surgery. The family was in the waiting room, waiting for the doctor to come in. And the doctor comes back, smelling the cigarettes. He must have just went out. He's working on hearts, and he's obviously smoking away. And so it's he wasn't. That's what I remember of the doctor. He did a phenomenal job, fantastic job. But I still remember it's not really practicing what you're preaching.
It's a crazy, crazy world we live in, isn't it? But I suppose back in that day, though, doctors used to say smoking was healthy, didn't they?
Yeah, you're right. They did. Yeah.
Back in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think your dad valued his health? Was he someone else healthy? Because you've mentioned, he was a bit large, and you've probably mentioned a few things there that makes me pick up maybe there was a bit of unhealthiness in his life.
He was not. He didn't really take care of himself, and I think that may have spurred me to say,
Mm,
as an example, you know, I, he smoked. He was overweight. He was a big dude too. I mean, he was just a big guy, and but no, he didn't take care of himself, and he died early at 68 because of this. And and I don't want to see other people go through that. I don't want to see other families go through that. So that's what it's kind of inspires me too.
mm. So it's a big part of your motivation has maybe come from, I suppose, that experience with your dad and maybe seeing his health decline.
Oh, probably yes. Yeah,
Mm,
it's even as a kid we used to say to him, "Don't smoke, stop smoking." Didn't want to hear it. He was saying that he was he was a strong man, but it was so it's you don't want to see anybody else. I'm going to be 60. I'm only 8 years away from what he was when he passed away, and yeah, I always compare myself too. At this age, where was he? I picture where was it? Where was he at this age? Where was he at that age? And so yes, I think that did play a part in motivating me to be healthy, to talk about health and fitness, and try to bring that out to
mm,
other people.
mm, yeah. When I hear you talk, I feel there's a lot of meaning behind what you're doing, Michael. There's meaning behind the book. There's meaning behind the practice. There's meaning behind the time that you spend with your family. What else do you do for pleasure?
I was also in my hometown here. I was for 20 years a recreation chairman of our recreation department, which is a volunteer position. It's a 9-member board. I was the chairman of it, and I loved doing it. I dealt with fixing up parks, all volunteer work, in raising money and fixing parks and running all the sports and programs. I actually just retired from that, stepped down on December 31st. After 20 years, it was enough. I was done. It's time for someone else to take it over. That took up a lot of my time. Other things I do is I'm Italian background. I'm Italian American, and I'm always trying to study the Italian language. And one thing I'm an avid reader, and I read avid of nonfiction books. So I love to read on the side. I watch podcasts, documentaries. I'm not, so I keep myself always trying to learn
Mm,
and always trying to be present for other people.
yeah, beautiful. I love it, mate. There's a physical practice in there, but learning a language as well, that's always challenging. So a good
Yeah,
mental practice as
yeah.
well, plus all the other stuff you're doing. Um, do you know or have you read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Don't think so. I'm trying to think. I
He's a
may not have read that.
Holocaust survivor, and
I
it's
know what
about
you're talking about now.
time and
Yes,
concent.
I've not read that. That's on my to read book. I knew exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, and for him to come out the other side of it, and for him to reflect and write back on it is quite amazing. And one of the things that I sort of took from it is, he sort of talks about meaning and pleasure in multiple sort of chapters, and I think he sort of comes across this thing of like a man who seeks pleasure often has no meaning, but a man who seeks meaning often has no pleasure. And I think there's a lot of men in midlife who are feeling restless or stuck because they're chasing one or the other of these, and they're not finding that balance in between. And that's why their feelings like anxious, maybe lost in that way. Would you say that you have a nice balance of probably both in your life? And for those who don't, have you got any recommendations?
Definitely have a balance for that. And I would say is to I'm really big on writing things down. And would you like to? What pleasure, what meaning are you missing? Would you like to take care of? There's a lot of distractions around us all the time. Um, a lot of vices around us, and people can get caught up in that, and that kind of takes away from the meaning of life, in my opinion. And meaning again, someone who's just a workaholic, someone who doesn't. You have to again. It goes back to stopping and smelling the roses, and gratitude for what you have. And how to find that balance. Again, I go back to that. So just write down what it is and try to work your way through it. There's some things you could either if it takes reading a couple of different types of books, or some podcasts or whatever it may take, but write it down and kind of try to work and see how you can fill in that missing gap.
Do you have anyone that holds you accountable? Do you share your visions, your goals, your purpose with other people?
Probably my wife. Yeah, yeah, she's my best friend, so probably her. And I think that's it. Myself.
she's enough, mate. She's enough to hold
Uh,
you accountable.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. How do you find your connection now? We touched a little bit on maybe the connection that you lost through high school, and then catching up with these people you hadn't seen in a long time. But what's the circle of connection around you right now besides your family, do you feel?
I have a couple friends that I will go to games with. I have that circle. Um, actually I have a few friends. I've won a couple of friends, and now we'll talk, entertain with. I'm very family oriented, and I guess around my profession. Those are really my and the things that fall within it. Again, the exercising and my other hobbies. That's where
Do
that's
you
sort of the
miss
family
it?
circle.
Do you miss deep connection with other men? Because you talked about how important that was for you growing up with your grandpa and your dad.
I have a real good connection with my son, and a real
Mm,
good connection with my brother.
yeah.
Yeah, we so that's it's there, and then sometimes even if we're men, we'll sometimes we'll just be men, and my wife will see next to him and say, "Well, it's just like so catch something." She goes, "Oh my god," just, but it's just for guys, It just I said something. My son will call me. We'll watch the ball game together. It's like it seems like nothing. It's a ball game, but it's just what bonds us together.
Mm, mm. I heard this thing the other day. It was quite interesting. It was talking about how women can catch up and they can just sit and talk for hours, but whenever men catch up, there's always the third thing. So it's like it's the blokes and the sport,
You're
or
right.
it's the blokes and the dinner, or the blokes and the beers, or the blokes and and something else. So it's just how dudes like to hang out, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I one buddy of mine. We go to the hockey game all the time together. So that's our we get together.
That's what you do. I like that, you FaceTime your son and you watch the game together. That's a pretty cool way to
Yeah.
keep connected and use technology these days to obviously build that connection or, share that opportunity that you wouldn't have because you're living so far away from each
Well,
other.
and there is good use for technology, and for, growing up, his growing up, we used to watch the games all the time, and I would buy extra packages for of baseball games because he wanted to watch in the summertime. He'd want to watch the 10 o'clock West Coast games and stuff. I thought we'll watch them together. It's just it's just a male bonding though. It's just there.
Michael, as we come to the end of the episode, I wanna throw some prompts at you. I just want to hear your honest response to each one of these prompts. So I've got five prompts to throw your way. Number one is, what standards are you no longer willing to compromise on?
Surrounding myself with mediocre people. That's it's they just pull you down. I mean, I said I was very much involved in 20 years as being a recreation chairman, and we had to get things done and progressed. And mediocre people just pull you down. People who just are not trustworthy and don't have great values. I mean, I just don't surround myself with them. I just cut them out. I'm nice, but I won't don't need to spend time with them at anyway. So
Mm.
that's the biggie.
I like that, mate. We are who we surround ourselves with. So surrounding yourself with the right people can obviously help you move closer to those goals and that vision that you're very passionate about. Number two, what does never settle actually mean to you now?
Yeah, I told my kids that growing up, never settle. Never settle when it comes to a spouse, never settle when it comes to a profession, never settle when it comes to friends. It's the same thing now. Never settle. Go back to what I just mentioned, mediocrity. Not settling for that. Just not settling for that. I mean, we're dealing in the world, and you have a mediocre cashier or something. There's nothing you can do about that. I'm not going to be mean or anything, but just will not settle for things that are what I find important. Never settle against my values. Um, Never settle against anything that just goes against the grain of what I believe in. And that's important. That was a big line I use all the time. And like I said, my wife, my son just got married and they're looking for a house now. And he keeps saying to us, I know, don't, we're not going to settle on a house. Not settle.
uh, you're passing that never settled gene on, mate. So it's in the
Yeah.
genetics by the sounds of it. Number 3, where do you think men lie to themselves most in midlife?
Yeah. They can lie to themselves, not saying that, they can fool themselves that saying that they're, they might lie to themselves. They might underestimate themselves. Yeah. They might feel that they have not, accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. The create. I mean, we all want to be billionaires. We all want to, be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. There's only two of them. So, well, people can lie to themselves and feel that they're not successful, but they have to really step back and take a look at what you may have accomplished, what you still can accomplish, and that's a lie to themselves, undervaluing what they may have achieved, what they may have. Even people who have had a very tough life could look back and realize how they've navigated to get to the point where they are now, and that is an achievement. So don't lie to yourself. Don't put yourself down.
Powerful message. I think there's a lot we can get from just sitting down and reflecting on how far we have come and the lessons we have learnt and the wisdom that we now have from all those experiences. And obviously, everyone's got their own life story, their own struggles. But I think, like you said, you're still willing to learn, and those mistakes are the best teachers, aren't they? Where we fail is where we learn the most along the way. So there's a lot in that.
Yeah, there's no failure. It's learning and success. That's
Learning and growing and success. Yeah.
strong.
Yeah. Number 4, what responsibility changed everything for you?
Probably the day my son was born. That really changed. You see the world differently. You know,
Mm.
when you're just like we mentioned a couple times, when you're younger, when you're just teenage, not even teenager, in college, no responsibilities. You kind of come and go, get married, and then when you have a kid, everything changes. Oh yeah, I put that in mind. Then I had the second one, but the first one is when things change.
Yeah, it's a big turning point in life, isn't it? Like you don't realize it until I think you've had kids, and when you look at your mates who haven't had kids, you just like you can't understand. You just can't
Yeah,
understand.
when my wife was pregnant, we used to say, "Oh, we're going to incorporate him into our lifestyle."
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, yeah. All right, number 5. What would you regret not standing for?
You know, as a man, there are certain responsibilities, and one is to be the protector. And as a protector, you're willing to lay your life down to do that protection, whether it be if someone come in the house and going to attack your wife or something, anything along those lines. I think that's probably the most dramatic, I would say, and that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, be the protector.
Be the protector. Yeah, I like that. Michael, is there any question I haven't asked you today that I should have asked you?
Now, this is pretty. This is pretty. This is good. Yeah, I think you asked a lot. You know what? You asked a lot of questions in a different way than I'm used to being asked, which was really which was interesting. Yeah, which is good.
No, I think you've got a great message to share, mate, and it's an inspiration to see, someone at your age still pushing, still striving, taking care of your health, taking care of your family, trying to create a legacy. It's interesting to see because it is going against the narrative in a lot of ways. So keep doing what you're doing and keep sharing the story.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
If people want to learn more about your book or learn more about what you do, whereabouts should they connect with you, mate?
Well, the best place to reach me is my website is like a home base. We have everything there. It's DRMGUAD. So it's Dr. M Guad, DRMGUAD.com. There you can get onto my Instagram page. You can get onto my Facebook page. I blog once a week. Actually, we do next blog tomorrow morning. My podcasts are on that, where I've been a guest, and which this one will be on there. I mean, and there's all information about my practice, about my book. My book, it can be purchased on Amazon, or you can I've actually there's I have a limited number of books that I'm autographing at www.fitnessover50.net, and you go to that website and I can autograph one and send it out to you.
Awesome, Michael. I'll put all those details in the show notes. I'm
Right.
truly grateful for your time today and for the wisdom and knowledge that you've shared with us.
I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
What I'm taking from this conversation is simple, but not easy. Midlife is where your standards get tested, not by big dramatic moments, but by the slow erosion of excuses that start to sound like truth. Michael's story is powerful because it's not about hacks. It's about ownership. It's about the way strong men are formed. It's about the cost of letting things slip. And it's about what it means to lead yourself so you can lead the people who depend on you. If this episode hit you and you know you've been negotiating with your own standards, come and join us inside the Midlife Mavericks Brotherhood. The link is in the show notes. It's a space for men who want to train, think, and live with intention in the second half of life. Before you go, I invite you to sit with these questions. Where have you accepted normal when you actually need higher standards? What are you no longer willing to compromise on? If nothing changes, where does your current path take you in the next 3 to 5 years? Thanks for tuning in to the Midlife Mavericks podcast. If you enjoy these episodes, please like and subscribe. Until next time, stay strong, healthy, and present with those you care about most.